Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the channel. The rainy old dreary day, and we are out there in the middle of nowhere again, as usual. Some things never change. Anyway, we are out in the middle of nowhere. A little holler called Ellis Fork Road, and it's just outside of Chapmanville, West Virginia. But it started thunderstorming, and it still is on and off. It's still coming down pretty heavy, so we got us an umbrella. We're gonna do it anyway. We've came all this way to tell you guys a story, so we're gonna tell you guys a story, rain or shine, right? Neither rain nor sleet nor dark of night will stop me, because you can't video at night. Anyway, we have a very interesting story to tell you guys today. Assuming you can hear me over the rain. Now right there is where we're going. That little fence right there. But I can assure you that little fence predate, well, not the fence, but the graves inside predate everything you see. 100%. Show you why in a second. Man, it is really coming down, y'all. It's really coming down. That's okay, though, because we have arrived. Now, where is Saul? There he is. That's him. Right here. Solomon, let me get the camera up here. Solomon Mullins, the Kentucky Militia War of 1812. Yeah, this guy was a veteran of the War of 1812. Yeah, so like I said, predates everything you're looking at. Now, today, like I told you, I'm on a lonely little stretch of road in what was Virginia at one time, but is now part of West Virginia, standing only a few feet away from the final resting place. Wow! Big boo! Dog over there didn't like that. He's gone. Alright, where were we? We're standing at the final resting place of a very unique man who has been pretty much lost to time until today. Now, his name was Solomon Mullins, though those who knew him called him by a completely different name. They called him Money-Making Saul. And just in case you guys haven't put that all together yet, yes, Saul was a counterfeiter. Long before the coal mines, the railroads, and company towns transformed this area, Saul Mullins here was already becoming a living legend. Born in North Carolina in 1782, he eventually settled here in the mountains of eastern Kentucky and southwestern Virginia. It was the silver counterfeit coins that he made that would make him famous. Now, Solomon came from a family that was already part of early American frontier life. He was the son of John Wesley Revolutionary John Mullins, a man whose nickname obviously suggests a connection to the era of the American Revolution. Like many mountain families of the time, the Mullins family followed the frontier, heading westward and settling in the rugged lands along the Virginia and Kentucky border. Before arriving in what is now southern West Virginia, Solomon and his wife, Sarah Mullins. During the early years of their marriage, they lived on Johns Creek in Floyd County, Kentucky. Records show that Saul enlisted on September 10th in 1814, serving as a private under Captain David Gooding in the Kentucky Volunteer Militia during the War of 1812. It's a tough one, y'all. Fighting with the umbrella, trying to stay dry here. Okay, let's try this. Let's see if this works any better. Right there is the grave, but I am back inside the car. It is just raining too hard to keep a train of thought going. I've derailed my train of thought half a dozen times. So we'll come over and we'll sit in the car and tell you the rest of the story. We showed you the grave anyway, so I guess that's the main thing. Anyway, by 1823, the family was living here in Pike County, Kentucky. They moved a few more times before Saul and Sarah made their final move to the Big Creek area, where they spent the remainder of their lives together. Along the way, they raised a large family, and many families throughout Kentucky, Virginia, Tennessee, and West Virginia can trace their ancestry directly back to this gravesite and this man. Solomon and Sarah Mullins, according to family stories passed down for generations, Saul had discovered a silver mine somewhere in the rugged mountains along the Kentucky and West Virginia border. Now, some believe that it came from the legendary lost silver mines connected to the old Swift silver mine stories. Others believe he simply found a rich source of silver and never did reveal the location. Whatever the truth is, Saul soon found a way to turn that silver into cold hard cash. Literally. Near Holly Creek in present-day Virginia, Saul operated beneath a large rock overhang that became known as Saul's Cliff. Hidden from sight, he melted silver and struck counterfeit coins that very closely resembled the official United States currency of the time. Family members reportedly helped him in the operation, using dies and hammer to produce half dollars, dollars, and other silver pieces. The operation became so successful that his name spread throughout the mountains. People soon began calling him Money-Making Saul and Counterfeiting Saul. Stories about him, I guess I don't need to yell quite so much, it's not so noisy now. Anyway, wow, it is really a wild day today. Stories about him only grew with time. One account claimed that Saul owned several enslaved women who worked his farm and hunted game in the surrounding mountains, although none of the enslaved woman thing has been proven. But anyway, another story said that government agents finally discovered his operation and caught him making counterfeit coins beneath the cliff. Realizing that he had been caught, Saul supposedly handed a hammer to the detective and tried to get him to help strike a couple coins. The idea was simple. If the officer participated in the crime, he would probably be a lot less willing to testify against Saul later. Whether the story happened exactly that way is impossible to know, but it became one of the most famous tales connected to Saul Mullins. But the law eventually caught up with him. In 1837, Solomon Mullins and at least two of his sons, Peter and Spencer, were charged in Russell County, Virginia, with producing counterfeit silver coins. Rather than remain under the watchful eye of the authorities, Saul moved his family again. For a time, they relocated to Tennessee, but pressure from the government followed him there as well. By the winter of 1841 and 1842, Saul headed far back into the remote mountains of Logan County, Virginia, which now is West Virginia. At that time, there was no Chapmanville as people know it today. The entire area was still mostly wilderness, dotted with a few scattered farms, cabins, and a few mountain settlements here and there. Saul settled here along the North Fork of Big Creek, west of present-day Chapmanville. Excuse me, sorry. Here he spent the final days of his life. The mountains of southern West Virginia proved to be an ideal place for a man who had spent much of his life staying just one step ahead of the law. Isolated hollows, steep ridges, and limited transportation made it difficult for outsiders to track anyone down, let alone him. Now, whether Saul continued making counterfeit money after he arrived here on Big Creek is unknown, but his reputation most certainly followed him here. Over time, the famous outlaw became something else entirely. He settled down and became a mountain patriarch. His children and grandchildren spread all throughout Logan, Boone, Lincoln, Mingo, Pike, and all of the surrounding counties. Thousands of Appalachian families today can trace their ancestry right back here to this spot and to Solomon Mullins. When Saul died in 1858, he was buried right here on the Ellis Fork of Big Creek beside his wife Sarah. Their graves remain one of the most unusual historic sites in the entire area. And today we were just standing only a few feet from the final resting place of the famous money-making Saul himself. So now that the rain has let up a little bit, let's walk back over there. We got the story done now, so we're good. Anyway, yeah, I got a little bit wet from about the hips down. Yeah, t-shirt's pretty much dry, but everything else is wet. That's like 2 times in the last couple weeks or so that I've got caught out in a thunderstorm, y'all. That's okay though. We don't care. We don't care if it rains. Okay, we care a little bit. when it gets so hard, raining so hard that you can't hear what I'm saying. And it's just totally distracting. I had no choice. We're gonna have to back up and punt here. But there he is. There he is. That's hard to believe, isn't it? That is totally hard to believe that after all these years, you know, that all this stuff would grow up around this old grave that predates pretty much everything in the area. That is wild, isn't it? A true West Virginia legend right there, and absolutely almost nobody knows about the man. You know, he was a living legend in his time, not afterward. He was a living legend when he was alive. And yeah, probably more famous then than he is now because as far as I know, we're about the only ones that, really know much about this grave and this site. And Saul himself, money-making Saul, or counterfeiting Saul if you prefer. Man, what a wet day. It is wet out here, y'all. It is wet, 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 wet. Just remember, when you click on subscribe, when you see that little subscribe button, poor old Leo, he went out in that thunderstorm and went all the way up there and got soaking wet just to tell us this story about Saul. Maybe we should click subscribe. Maybe. Awesome story though, isn't it? Awesome story. Predates everything. It's wild, isn't it? Just the history, that's all around us. And you go out and you start looking for this stuff, and things like counterfeiting Saul just kind of jump out at you. Hey, look at me. Anyway, guys, thank y'all for coming along. I would say, I wish you'd, I hope y'all enjoyed the pretty scenery, the beautiful weather, all this kind of stuff. But hey, on the bright side, at least you got to see Leo get soaked. So it's a bonus, right? At least we got to see Leo get soaked. There's an old house right there, isn't it? That's an old one. That's a really old house. There's another old cemetery up there too. Look at that. A little log barn right beside of it. Cool little place. Money-making Saul. Alright, guys. Oh yeah, there is one other thing I did want to mention before I go. I was kind of curious, and Heather and I were talking about this. If he had found a silver mine, right? Why not just get the silver and sell the silver, right? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Why would you risk, making counterfeit coins when you could just sell the silver and not have to worry about law enforcement, right? I checked. I did a little bit of research on this. Back then, 1 ounce of silver went for about $1.65. Okay. Now, that silver dollars that he was making, that was equivalent to about $30 in our money, right? So, and he could probably make several with an ounce of silver. He could probably make several coins with that same ounce of silver. So he could either sell the silver and get $1.60 something, or he could use that same ounce of silver and make a whole bunch of coins and get, our equivalent, the modern day equivalent of $30, $28 and something, I think it was, per coin. So that is why he didn't sell the silver coins, or sell the silver. That is why he counterfeited the coins, because you go from $1 something per ounce, you go into the hundreds per ounce. So that is why, just in case anybody's curious, that was the first thing popped into my mind, when why would he do that? If you've got a silver mine, why not just sell the silver? I'm kind of thinking he did not have a silver mine. That he had just probably gotten a hold of, a bunch of silver somewhere and started making the coins. And then from there, once you're making the coins, you can just buy more silver. It's only $1 something an ounce, right? It's only $1.67 an ounce. So you can buy all the silver you want from there. Very cool story though, guys, huh? Got a bridge washed out here, don't we? Look at that. Bridge just collapsed right into the creek. We got a big pipe there you drive over to get back up through there. Very cool though. The man just kept moving further and further and further, way back into the wilderness where the law couldn't find him. And I guess until next time, until the next episode, until the next adventure, this is Leo with the Hillbilly Files, and we will see you guys next time. Leo out.